We've got the actress and campaigner Elizabeth Hurley. Liz, are you Liz or are you Elizabeth? I'd just like to know before we begin.
Well, whatever.
No, not
takes your
whatever.
fancy.
What? I don't want you coming away and saying he called me the wrong name all morning. Are you Elizabeth or Liz?
Well, probably most of my friends call me Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, okay, Elizabeth it is. And Elizabeth's with two top professors, Professor Mitch Dowsett and Professor Eamonn Smith. And these guys are here to talk about breast cancer, because the thing about breast cancer, and Jackie and Charlotte are here to join in on this as well, is that all of us probably know someone who has been affected by this or has this. And indeed, professors, how much of all cancers does breast cancer account for?
Well, breast cancer actually is the most common breast cancer in Western countries in women. I think it amounts for about a quarter of cancer overall.
1 out of 4.
About 1 in 4 of the cancers we know is breast cancer.
Yeah, that's amazing. Elizabeth, your role in all of this, are you one of these people we're talking about that has come into your life or your family's life?
Oh, it has. I mean, on a personal level, my grandmother died of breast cancer in the 90s, but also because of my role within the Breast Cancer Association, I've met hundreds, if not thousands, of women who've been affected by breast cancer, either themselves or their family members. You know, I've met a lot of young men whose mums have been fighting breast cancer. Obviously, they haven't all survived. And now what's quite interesting is that we know that 1% of all breast cancers actually occur in men. So I've met some men who are fighting breast cancer. And that puts another very interesting perspective on, you know, something we've been battling for a long time.
And Professor Smith, why would there be 1% of men affected by this? Are there certain risk factors or things that incline them to be susceptible to this?
Well, unlike women, the genetic link is much more important in men. It's only a small number of women whose breast cancer are caused by what we call familial genetic links, genetic abnormality. But if that genetic abnormality is present in men, then there's a stronger predisposition. It's still a very rare disease in men.
So if a man's mother or grandmother died of breast cancer, then the risk is higher with them?
Absolutely.
Right. And I think you also raised a very interesting point, Elizabeth, in terms of who suffers as a result of this, because, you know, everybody has a mother or a sister or an auntie or cousin or whatever it happens to be, and that is what makes this something that we've all got to fight and be aware of. Tell me about this campaign that you're involved in, the Estee Lauder campaign, because this has been going on a long time.
20 years. Evelyn Lauder, Estee Lauder's daughter-in-law, started the campaign 20 years ago, initially to raise awareness and to stop breast cancer being sort of like a dirty word that people were scared to say. When she started in the early 90s, nobody spoke about breast cancer. They said it in hushed tones. There was no pink ribbon campaign. She co-invented the pink ribbon nearly more than 20 years ago, and we've given away 120 million free pink ribbons over those 20 years. And so first of all, it was just to say to people, we need to talk about it. This needs to be something that everybody knows about. It can't be hidden. And I think they've made such massive progress in the awareness of that. We've also been fundraising, and now what we've decided this year is awareness is there, and now we want people to actually take some action.
Right.
And get into groups, talk more about it, help to raise money, pledge to have mammograms if women are over 40, under 40 go to their doctors for manual checks, things like that. We now really want to activate people.
See, as women, is this a big fear? I mean, men would be less, I think, inclined to be fearful of this, but I mean, as women, when you get into the shower in the morning, is this something you live with? Is this something you're always thinking about?
I'm terrified of it, I think, because there's such a high chance that you will get it. So there's 3 of us in our family, girls, 3 sisters. Perhaps one of us will get it. My friend was a breast cancer nurse. I've seen some horrible cases, really young women, 32 years old, 4 children, who got it and didn't recover and, you know, and died. And I just think it's something we should all be aware of. And it just seems to be that it doesn't discriminate. You can be as fit and healthy as you like, and you can still get it. There's almost nothing you can do to stop it.
Professors, would you agree with that it doesn't discriminate?
Well,
Go in.
It doesn't discriminate. It's uncommon in young women. I think this is a really important point. When it does strike young women, of course, it's all the more devastating because they've got all their lives ahead of them. The only point I would like to make is it's not all doom and gloom. The great majority of women now who've got breast cancer can be cured of this. And the percentage of patients being cured is rising every year. In fact, it's one of the great success stories in modern cancer medicine.
Yes, I absolutely agree with Ian. Firstly, in terms of the personal experience, of course, even though we're professionals, we get the same contact with people. Just on Sunday, I met a friend who said she'd been to the shower, as you were saying, felt the lump, and said to her, actually went directly to her husband and said, I think I've got cancer. And of course, his response is, well, don't be daft. She then went to the doctor, fortunately, and she's now got early disease. But in terms of the outlook, one, I think, really impressive statistic is over the last 20 years, in middle age, that's between the age of 35 and 69, death from breast cancer has been halved. Has actually gone down by a half.
Okay, so this is good news. This is positive, and that's going to get better.
But more cancers are being diagnosed because of earlier detection, possibly.
It's earlier detection, particularly better treatments. Things like better treatments being given earlier. I mean, we heard news yesterday about Herceptin and a better way of giving it, but that's had an impact on perhaps the most aggressive disease, part of the disease.
Yeah, well, I just wondered, we've obviously seen high-profile people like Angelina Jolie, like Sharon Osbourne talking about this recently. How much do you think that has helped? You were saying that it used to almost be a dirty word, didn't it, talking about breast cancer?
I think it's helped enormously. The fact that people now can stand up and say, I've had breast cancer, is a huge progress. When my grandmother found her first lump, she didn't tell anybody for a few years because she was embarrassed. She didn't tell us all. She could have survived, because we know that if a breast cancer is detected early, 90% of people will survive at least 5 years. But the question is, it's detecting it early before it moves to a later stage, which is why our awareness campaign has always been examine your own breasts, get yearly mammograms if you're over 40, and be very aware and talk about it. So we commend anybody that can stand up and say, either someone like Angelina Jolie, who had the gene and had her preventative double mastectomy. It's wonderful when people share, and I think that's really our message right now.
And it's obviously very good having you at the forefront of all that. People know who you are, the Estee Lauder Company's breast cancer awareness campaign, and you're attracting a lot of attention on Twitter this morning. People very curious about you, and you know the question that's coming next. You know what's coming from me.
Will I follow you on Twitter? Yes.
Yes, that's a very that's the correct answer there. The second thing is, do you run a zoo at home? Because, I mean, when I read your tweets and things, and you have something called, well, despite all your dogs and all that sort of thing, you've got an alpacas.
I've got a pair of alpacas.
What are they? Like llamas?
They look a bit like llamas. They're like slightly smaller llamas, and they're very, very sweet. They'll come to the hand, yeah. They'll come and take little nuts and stuff from your hand.
Well, I'm sure. But I was very worried about you a couple of Sundays ago when I was reading that they had escaped. You were up early, and you were saying you were down rounding them up.
Yeah. I was up early fencing. They had escaped. They're escape artists. Because they're very tall, they've got very long legs and they jump. So, yeah, you have to be quite particular with your fencing.
Where did they go?
In the garden.
Oh, right.
They came right up to the house with their big heads right in the kitchen window.
You also tweeted and you said, the more you learn about men, the more you like your dog. And you've got a number of dogs. Could you tell us about... We're all dog owners. We have rescue dogs, right?
I've got 5.
Have you?
They're out of control. Yeah,
and what do you like about dogs more than men?
Well, I do love my dogs, actually. I've got 3 Labradors and 2 really naughty, very silly Cocker Spaniels. They're lovely. Unfortunately, my dogs have formed a pack. So instead of being... Normally Labradors are adorable, you know, snuffly things, wouldn't say boo to a goose. Mine kill foxes. I've got insane Labradors. They've formed this vicious little inside pack. They sleep on my bed. They love me. They have their great grizzly heads on my pillow. Yes. But they're just very naughty. So the alpacas can hold their own. Sheep, less so. So we have the fencing's important on our farm.
Okay, well, very interesting. And the main thing people want to know is, are you happy?
Oh, how could I not be happy? I have these charming men all day today who I like as much as my dogs, obviously.